Unity has to be more than a concept. It has to be about working together to address stubborn realities. And again, I follow some of you, so I know the stubborn realities that you're working in your city. But I really believe that people in a city, whether they follow Jesus or not, by and large, 90% of them, 95% of them really want a good city. I mean, they really do want a good city. And we can address what the stubborn realities are in our city, but we can't address them all. But as a body of Christ, we can address some key ones together. And I think it's really identifying for our city, what are the key stubborn realities we want to face. So Dallas, Texas, which has more churches, I think, per capita than any city in the United States, and more big churches, like a church of 1,500 is like, it's an okay sized church in Dallas. They have 5,000, 10,000, 20,000. They did some research before their first movement day to find out what really are the problems in Dallas. They found out they were number 2 in the United States for sex trafficking. They had no idea. So they said, how do we as a body of Christ really address that? In New York City, more recently, we've said, what's it mean for the combined body of Christ to address foster kids? Because in the US, 75% of all the males that are in prison were foster children. 60% of all of the sex trafficked females were foster children. 50% of the 500,000 homeless were foster children. So we said, how do we in New York City, and we're beginning to create a strategic plan, work together as the combined body of Christ to address the foster care system and rescue children? For Philadelphia, it's how do we address the racial divide in the body of Christ, not just in the city, but how do we address it in the body of Christ, and how do we build bridges? I think it was Tim Keller who said, God calls us to build bridges across generations, across cultures, across denominations. But he said, then he looked at us in the room and he said, just remember, bridges are meant to be walked on. So when you build bridges, you'll be walked on occasionally. So I think the practical thing for me is unity isn't just a theological concept. And I'm looking at Lloyd Cook, and Lloyd knows this, I mean, so well. You have to address the practical issues in the city. Last night we met in Manchester. It was the Movement for Recovery. It was one of the first meetings, and it was very practical on how do we address some of the stubborn realities that really need to take place in Manchester. So I'm just really encouraged. And I think sometimes when business leaders see unity happening in cities, they always hop to the question, so what difference is it making? What are you addressing? Are you just getting together for tea or coffee, or are you actually working together for the good of the city? And that's just a real practical thing.